In December of 1773, a group of American colonists dressed up like Native Americans and snuck onto 3 ships docked in the Boston harbor. Their mission? To destroy as much British tea as they possibly could. Why? Well, because they were mad that Britain had passed a series of laws known as the Tea Act, which gave the British East India Company a monopoly on tea sales in America. The colonists didn't like this one bit, and so they took matters into their own hands. In this story, we're going to look at how the Boston Tea Party unfolded, why the colonists protested against the Tea Act, and how this event helped to start the American Revolution. To fully understand this pivotal moment in history, we must first understand the events that led up to it. 4 decades before the Boston Tea Party, the British government had been trying to get the American colonies to buy stuff from the British East India Company, which was a monopoly created by Parliament in 1600 to oversee all trade between Britain and its colonies in North America. The company quickly became hugely successful, amassing a fortune on the transatlantic trade. But by the early 1700s, the company's popularity began to decline. This was due to a variety of factors, including competition from other European powers and the fact that the company's products were often of low quality. In an effort to boost sales, the British government passed the Tea Act in 1773. The Act gave the British East India Company a monopoly on tea sales in America, meaning that colonists could only purchase tea from the company. What made this particularly galling to the colonists was the fact that the tax was only repealed in Britain. In other words, the colonists were being taxed without representation. They had no voice in Parliament, and yet they were being forced to buy their tea from a British monopoly. Needless to say, the colonists were furious. They had long been complaining about the taxes that Britain was levying on them, and the Tea Act was the last straw. On December 16, 1773, a group of colonists known as the Sons of Liberty, in secret, they decided that they had had enough of British tyranny, and they were going to take action. The plan was simple. They would dress up like Native Americans and sneak onto 3 ships docked in the Boston harbor. They would then proceed to dump as much British tea into the harbor as they could. It was a risky plan, but the colonists were desperate. They knew that, if they were caught, they would be arrested. But they also knew that they couldn't just sit back and let Britain walk all over them. And so on the night of December 16th, 1773, a group of about 100 men snuck onto the 3 ships and began throwing tea chests into the harbor. They continued until every single chest of tea was destroyed. In total, about 92,000 pounds of tea was dumped into the Boston harbor. It was a huge statement, and one that the British government would not soon forget. The colonists knew that they had risked their lives to make a stand against British tyranny, and they were prepared to face the consequences. When the British government responded with even more taxes and restrictions, the colonists only became more determined to fight back. The Boston Tea Party is often seen as the event that kicked off the American Revolution. The colonists had finally had enough of British rule, and they were ready to fight for their freedom. Whether you agree that the Boston Tea Party started the American Revolution or not, there's no denying that it was a pivotal moment in American history. It was the first time that the colonists had taken such a bold stand against the British government, and it was the first time that the British government had responded with such force. After the Boston Tea Party, the relationship between Britain and its colonies was broken beyond repair. The stage was set for the American Revolution, and all that was left to do was wait for it to begin. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button below to let me know. I'm the narrator. This has been the Boston Tea Party story, and I'll see you next time.